NBA offseason is always a crazy time, so with that, I made an NBA preview mini-series covering the Western and Eastern Conference. Today's video covering the 8 teams I have on top at the end of the season. Honorable mention to the Houston Rockets. They have yet to trade away Russell Westbrook or James Harden. If they trade away both of these players, clearly they're not going to be one of the top 8 teams in the West, but if they keep one or keep both, I could easily see them replacing one of these teams I have mentioned in this video. So the team I have with the 8th best record in the West is the Golden State Warriors. And that's pretty tough because you're going to have a lot of teams competing for that 8th spot this upcoming season, like the San Antonio Spurs, the Memphis Grizzlies, the New Orleans Pelicans, Minnesota Timberwolves. It's wide open, but what puts the Warriors above those 4 teams I just mentioned is clearly Steph Curry. This is a projection that Steph Curry won't be injured the majority of the season and won't sit out games. Injuries definitely plagued this team last year, with Steph Curry going down early along with Kevon Looney, not to mention Klay Thompson's prior injury, and then yet another season with Klay Thompson being out. At least they've retooled the roster a little bit, adding guys like Kelly Oubre, getting a high overall draft pick to select James Wiseman. Their bench needs a lot of work, but a lot of the young guys were able to step up last year, and they've been able to retool their roster to try to be able to fill the void with Klay Thompson not being here for this upcoming season. This can't be another year for the Golden State Warriors to tank, because Steph Curry is 32 and he only has a few years left at this elite level. Mind you, he's probably going to be able to play for a very long time just with his shooting ability alone, but you don't want to see Curry go out like this. The Warriors have to be competitive. At the 7th spot, I have the Phoenix Suns, who've made drastic improvements this offseason with trades, acquiring Chris Paul to have a running mate with Devin Booker after the Phoenix Suns went 8-0 in the bubble. For the most part, all the teams I have ahead of the Suns got better, just like the Suns did. But it's kind of hard for me to place them anywhere because although it's something to be excited about, I don't know how well that first year is going to be. I mean, Chris Paul willed the Thunder into the playoffs, so I'm sure he could do it with the Phoenix Suns, especially with having a talent like Devin Booker finally being able to show out, adding guys like Jay Crowder. That lineup is going to be absolutely crazy. It's going to have shooting, it's going to have defense. It's going to be an exciting team to watch. And although they lost players like Kelly Oubre and Ricky Rubio, they weren't really a part of the success that they had in the 8-0 bubble, or at least Oubre wasn't. This team did everything right in the offseason. At the 6th spot, I have the Utah Jazz. The Jazz are an interesting team because although Donovan Mitchell showed out in the playoffs against the Denver Nuggets, really that was their only bright spot. Mike Conley is definitely not the player he used to be, and although getting Jordan Clarkson helped boost them offensively, this team is kind of capped. They've got guys already on long-term deals, and they don't really have any flexibility until Mike Conley's last year expires. And then if they don't do anything spectacular and become another first-round exit, how do you retool this roster? They're really riding on Donovan Mitchell's future superstardom, and I don't know if that's going to be able to will them past the first round in the playoffs. They're basically the same exact team as they were last year. I mean, Bogdanovich didn't play in the playoffs, so maybe this year he will. They added a guy like Derek Favors, who was injured a lot last year with the Pelicans, so we'll have to wait and see. At the 5th spot, I have the Dallas Mavericks. They did a lot of retooling to their roster, getting rid of shooters and adding defense, with the trade for Seth Curry for Josh Richardson. And really, that's what Luka needs. Players to hide him on the defensive end because he's gifted offensively. And Twitter seems to be going crazy over the trade for James Johnson, Luka's protector. He got a black belt, so he's ready to beat people up apparently. Luka's going to be balling out like crazy this year, and I would have them higher, but just the uncertainties of Kristaps Porzingis' health, if he's able to reach that level that it used to be, along with having another key piece like Dwight Powell coming back from his Achilles injury. Couple of health issues for those guys, but other than that, this team is going to be really fun to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see where Luka ends up in terms of MVP voting at the end of the year, because he's definitely going to be up there. At the 4th spot, I have the Portland Trailblazers, and this team really excites me with the amount of wing defenders they added to this roster. And if they could stay healthy, guys like Zach Collins, Yusuf Nurkic, if they could just have a full year of being healthy all at the right time, this team is going to be extremely dangerous. I love everything they did in this offseason, letting Hassan Whiteside walk, trading Trevor Ariza, and adding guys like Robert Covington, one of the best 3-and-D defenders, athletic wings like Derrick Jones Jr., and getting Enes Kanter back. Enes Kanter, he may not be good on defense, but at least he gives you effort, and I believe it was 2 years ago when he was playing hurt with the shoulder injuries, he was out there, putting the team on his back, holding it down for Nurkic, out for injury. Speaking of injuries, Rodney Hood coming back from his Achilles injury. Guys like Gary Trent Jr. showing out in the bubble. Yeah, this team is going to be something. It's going to be scary. At the 3rd spot, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. I see a lot of unnecessary hate towards all the Clippers moves. Maybe because they're the Clippers, but Montrezl Harrell was a really one-dimensional player, an undersized center that's not going to give you much offensively. Replacing that with Serge Ibaka, who basically does everything that Montrez does but can stretch the floor and is 7 foot. That seems like an upgrade to me, along with adding guys like Luke Kennard. The biggest problem I see that they did in the offseason was signing Marcus Morris to, I believe, a 4-year deal. That's pretty much big money right there, just for a player to push Luka around. Although I like what they did in the offseason, the big key factors here is Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. More specifically, Paul George. Is he going to be able to elevate his game back to how he was a few years ago? Or is he going to continue deteriorating? Maybe the Clippers just aren't meant for him. At the 2nd spot, I have the Denver Nuggets. They showed out in the bubble. They showed out in the playoffs. Jamal Murray was going crazy. They got to the Western Conference Finals. It was a pretty wild time to be the Denver Nuggets, and I feel like this year is going to be a transitional period to wait out for next year's free agency, to move on from guys like Paul Millsap, to see what they're going to be able to do with their young guys like Bol, Michael Porter Jr., and see if guys like Jamal Murray continue to elevate. So I don't know, I don't feel like they're gonna make it to the Western Conference Finals once again, but I hope I'm wrong. They lost key defenders like Jeremy Grant and Torrey Craig, but I'm assuming that is going to be put on the young guys to develop and see what they're able to do. I like the pick with RJ Hampton, adding JaMychal Green. That defense is not going to be hitting unless some of these other players step up, which we'll have to wait and find out. At the 1 spot, I have the defending champions, Los Angeles Lakers, back at the top. They've retooled their roster. They've gotten rid of guys like Danny Green. Man, Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma in the finals, bricking threes. That was painful to watch. So hopefully guys like Wesley Matthews can pick up that slack there. The additions of Dennis Schroeder, Marc Gasol, and although I said he was undersized, Montrezl Harrell, hopefully he fits in well. Don't get it confused though, Marc Gasol is definitely not Memphis Marc Gasol anymore. So people are saying that defensive front court of Anthony Davis and Gasol are going to be crazy. I think Montrezl Harrell going to have to pick a lot of the slack on the defensive end. And if it matches up with the Denver Nuggets, that's going to be Harrell's worst nightmare, having to guard Jokic all over again. Normally championships teams stay the same unless you're, the Dallas Mavericks or something that got rid of almost everybody. But this team got better, and they're definitely the favorites right now to back-to-back. But those are my opinions on the 8 teams I have being at the top of the Western Conference. Did you agree? Did you disagree? Let me know in the comment section below.
I was down bad, wasn't getting no help, It's a brush and trick, I'm a decline of my health. No interest in me for the longest of time. Shit, know I'm about to blow, yes, my time. Girl, she wanna blow, but I got no time. I'm tryna make it, I'm winning in line. Yeah, I'm jumping over this line. I got the movies, I call it my slap. Big body, yeah, that's what I want.